Hi, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a little video around toxic relationships, and I've done a few videos similar to this, but not really about my experience. I want this to be a little bit juicy and a little bit like anecdotal. I guess a lot of my videos are anecdotal, but just a bit, you know, of a time to process certain aspects of a past relationship in particular, but also other relationships that have had toxicity in them. I do believe that we all have our toxic elements, but just generally having a sort of to the point conversation about what might be signs that might be worth looking at in order to evolve from the toxicity and become a more healthy, grounded person that is not reliant upon things that they shouldn't be. Fitting with the law of attraction video that I did about letting things go, if you want to give that a look, but on a logistic level, because I think the idea is like anyone can be toxic. I'm sure like some people know about this, you may not know some of this stuff, you may not, but I feel like when I've done research I know that anyone can be toxic and anyone can stop being toxic. And toxic, I remember hearing from a young age, and I'd just be like, because obviously I went to like a Catholic school and stuff, and I'd just be like, I was very aware of like, you know, conduct, biblical conduct, and like, not biblical conduct, but like saying that I went to a school that was extremely toxic in a lot of ways, so I don't know why I'm even saying that, but this is what I mean. It's so difficult to tell whether you're being toxic or whether you've been in toxic situations that are guiding behaviour that is toxic, and I suppose it's like a social construct, the toxicity idea, but I think it's just about being, I think there's no line between what's toxic and what's not, in a way. I mean, there is, but for example, if you find yourself being jealous of a friend, that can be a sign of toxicity, because you might be sort of trying to drag them down to bring yourself up, which I feel like is easily done, but really following the guide steps of humility, and that we all have a path, and like not getting in the way of other people's is kind of a good way to be. And also, what's another thing that you can do if you're toxic? Just like being overly critical, or like I think it's difficult because obviously in everyday life we all have, you know, past baggage and crap and stuff. I think it's also important to differentiate what is toxicity and what is just like stuff that goes on in life, because I, for example, have experienced passive aggression with myself in my part of a relationship or situation, and also seeing it from another person's side, and I think that can contribute to obviously aggression in some way, like passive aggression, and like, you know, causing conflict in a relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're toxic. And I don't think it's about necessarily like you can label, but like what else is there? I'm sorry, I haven't got any notes on this, which is why I'm like speaking out, but I have watched a few videos on it, and you can be toxic with a friend, or you can be toxic in a relationship. Obviously, wife, and also in a family, that's the worst, when you've got a toxic family, or whether you're involved within a family that's got toxic traits. At the end of the day, I think this is more of a being able to release the like actual name of toxicity and being toxic at the same time, because it is a social construct at the end of the day, and you hear this chucked around so much. I get why, and there are things tangibly that can be toxic, and there's so many videos on that, but I do think from my point in this video, it's more been about it's kind of evolved the point of this video, but it's been more about the relinquishing the toxic like actual word as like some sort of like disease kind of word, do you know what I mean? So we all have our baggage. It's worth being aware how much weight we put on other people with our own problems, and this can be, you know, toxic traits can be generational. You know, your mum or dad may have done something to you, and then you then do that to someone else. I always think self-awareness is the most important thing, but equally one thing I am trying to evolve out of is trying to be so, like, think everything through, because sometimes things just don't have a necessarily a resolution, and you can't always understand other people, if that makes any sense. So just trying to be less analytical about other people is also a good thing. It's also a bit of a toxic trait to focus on, because like I think you can be toxic on two ends of the spectrum as well, like in like some relationships where like you can either be too, you can be like overly focused on someone to the point where you're like obsessing over the situation, and that could be because of toxicity, or it could be just because there's a lot of problems in a relationship. Regardless, it's just not healthy to obsess, and just to kind of like detach from the fact you don't really, you know, being aware of like if that person's going to be good for you, but then being able to detach healthily from a person rather than create this messed up bond that like really is based around things that are difficult. But anyway, everyone has their own path. Like at the end of the day, no one's perfect, and there we go, a bit of a ramble, probably pretty obvious stuff, but felt like it was a good video to put out, so there we go. Thank you for listening. Bye.